One fall with a 10-minute time limit. Introducing in the corner to my left, weighing in at 219 pounds from Charleston, West Virginia, the Renegade. And somewhere here, there he is from Hartford, Connecticut, the Wild Man himself, making his way to the ring, Wild Bull Curry. Wendell Burchett is your referee.
Battering of his life. And this is what look at this boy Bull. Look at these fans around this ring. Listen to this tremendous clattering uproar.
Long before professional wrestling became a slick, television-friendly spectacle, it was a smoky world of territorial grudges, bloody brawls, and larger-than-life personalities who blurred the line between performance and real violence. Among these early legends, few names inspired more fear or respect than Wild Bull Curry. With a reputation for savage, no-holds-barred fights, and an unpredictable temper that could explode at any moment, Curry built a career as one of the most notorious heels in wrestling history. He wasn't just a character put on for show. He was the living embodiment of the sport's most dangerous and anarchic impulses, a man who made audiences believe every punch was real because, more often than not, it was. Audiences never knew whether they were witnessing a performance or a genuine eruption of violence, and that uncertainty made Curry both a legend and a menace in arenas across America. More than just a villain, he was the prototype for the hardcore wrestlers who would follow, a pioneer of brutality whose wild reputation still echoes through the annals of wrestling history. Born Fred Curry in Hartford, Connecticut in 1913, Curry's life story reads like a blueprint for the classic wrestling tough guy. Before he ever stepped into a wrestling ring, Wild Bull Curry was already building a reputation as one of the toughest men alive. At just 16, he joined the circus to help support his 4 younger siblings. His job? The tough man, a sideshow bruiser who would take on any audience member willing to fight. In his 20s, Curry took that same raw physicality to the streets as a Hartford police officer. His rough-and-tumble background served him well in law enforcement, where his willingness to throw hands became legendary. That legend only grew when a wild steer broke loose from the local stockyards and tore through the streets of Hartford. Curry didn't flinch. He grabbed the bull by the horns and wrestled it to the ground. The moment would define him forever. From that day on, he was known as Wild Bull Curry. Curry's wrestling career began in the 1930s in Detroit, Michigan, under promoter Adam Weissmuller, the uncle of Olympic swimmer and Hollywood's Tarzan, Johnny Weissmuller. It was in Detroit that Curry honed his signature style, a brutal, no-frills, street fight approach to pro wrestling that made him one of the most feared names in the territory. His notoriety grew so large that in 1940, Curry stepped into the ring with none other than heavyweight boxing champion Jack Dempsey in an exhibition match. Over the years, Curry would claim that he knocked Dempsey out, but the truth is that he was stopped in the second round. Still, the fact that he even shared the ring with Dempsey cemented his place in combat sports folklore. In the early 1950s, Wild Bull Curry relocated to Texas, where his reputation as a violent brawler preceded him. Almost overnight, his unpredictable ferocity and unforgettable look made him a star. Fans in Texas had never seen anything quite like him. He wasn't just a villain, he was a force of nature. Curry's no-holds-barred style drew huge crowds wherever he wrestled, and he quickly became the biggest box office attraction in the territory. But while promoters valued his ability to sell tickets, they were hesitant to put the territory's top championship on someone so uncontrollable. His matches often devolved into near riots, and his willingness to break the rules made him a controversial figure, even by the anything-goes standards of the time. Instead of awarding Curry the main title, the bookers created something entirely new, a championship tailor-made to fit his brutal persona, the NWA Texas Brass Knuckles Championship. The concept was simple and perfectly suited to Curry's style: Matches were explicitly billed as no disqualification slugfests, where anything short of murder was permitted, and the brass knuckles belt became a symbol of his dominance. On March 6, 1953, Curry cemented his legacy by defeating Danny McShane in the tournament final to become the inaugural champion. The title not only legitimized his violent approach, but also laid the groundwork for the hardcore wrestling championships that would become popular decades later. One of the trademarks that set Wild Bull Curry apart from every other villain of his era was his unforgettable wild man look. With thick, bushy eyebrows and eyes that seemed to bulge with genuine madness, Curry could terrify a crowd with a single glare. His maniacal facial expressions were so convincing that in one notorious incident, a young girl sitting ringside was so frightened she had to be carried out of the building in hysterics. Curry's deranged appearance, combined with his brutal, rule-breaking brawling style, made him one of the most hated men in professional wrestling. He didn't just provoke boos, he incited full-scale riots. Fans would routinely storm the ring, throw objects, or try to fight him themselves, risking serious injury in the process. In 1956, after Curry viciously attacked local favorite George Becker, a fan jumped into the ring to defend him. Curry broke the man's jaw with a single punch. Just a few years later in Galveston, Texas, Curry's match with Pepper Gomez was interrupted when a spectator struck him with an iron pipe. Curry chased the man into the balcony and allegedly beat him senseless. In perhaps the most notorious episode, Curry smashed a cinder block over his opponent's head during a televised match. The opponent was rushed to the hospital for stitches, and Curry was arrested on the spot. For the next 4 weeks, he was allowed out of jail only to wrestle. Each time, police would escort him to the ring in handcuffs, unshackle him to compete, then cuff him again and take him back to jail when the match was over. These wild scenes only fed his legend. To the fans who loved chaos, Curry was the ultimate anti-hero. To everyone else, he was the embodiment of everything terrifying about professional wrestling in its roughest era. His ability to blur the line between villainy and outright criminality became his most enduring legacy, and set a standard of mayhem no one else could match. While some critics labeled Curry's style as little more than a glorified street fight, it was precisely his unapologetic brutality that captured the imagination of working-class fans. They packed arenas by the thousands to see whether anyone could survive his onslaught. In an era when professional wrestling was fighting for legitimacy, Curry's matches offered something no other performer could: the sense that, at any moment, things might spin out of control. This aura of danger was a powerful draw, and it helped lay the groundwork for future generations of brawlers and hardcore legends. Without Wild Bull Curry, there likely would have been no Abdullah the Butcher, no Bruiser Brody, and no ECW Revolution in the 1990s. Outside the ring, Curry was a complex figure, a family man who raised his son, Fred Curry Jr., to follow in his footsteps, yet also someone who never quite left behind the violent instincts that made him famous. He remained active in the business well into the 1970s, a testament to both his toughness and the enduring appeal of his persona. Even as wrestling evolved into a more scripted and television-friendly enterprise, Curry's legacy endured as a symbol of the sport's raw, unpolished origins. Wild Bull Curry was more than just a heel or a showman. He was the embodiment of an era when professional wrestling was still a dangerous proving ground, when the line between sport and spectacle was razor thin. His wild brawls, his genuine volatility, and his larger-than-life presence earned him a place in wrestling history as the archetype of the hardcore villain. To this day, whenever a wrestler smashes a chair over an opponent or sends a match spiraling into chaos, they are following a path first carved out by the wildest man ever to step between the ropes.